Welcome. As you settle in for a night of restful sleep, join us on a tranquil journey back to the medieval ages, exploring the surprising meals that fueled armies on epic conquests. Imagine the taste of hardtack and feel the warmth of a rustic stew bubbling over a campfire. As your eyelids grow heavy, help us enrich our sleepy community. Tap that like button if you're in your comfiest PJs. Are you watching from a cozy nook or a faraway land? Comment your location and the current time. Sweet dreams await as history whispers your name. In the velvet-bound silence of night, when the world seems to hold its breath in anticipation of dreams descending, there lies an often overlooked narrative, a narrative as rich and layered as the weight of armor upon an exhausted soldier's shoulders. Imagine a time, centuries past, deep in the heart of medieval Europe. It is an age of constant motion, a time where the drumbeats of war roll across vast landscapes, echoing through valleys and whispering through the ancient forests that have silently watched history unfold. Amidst this vast panorama, the medieval army marches forward, a sprawling tapestry of men and horses, each embodying a part of an intricate, moving apparatus. Their flags bear familiar standards, flapping like the weary wings of mythical creatures, guiding the battalions toward lands both known and undiscovered. The metallic clinking of chainmail, the muted thud of boots on hardened earth, and the distant, authoritative calls of a commander undercut the air that carries the mingling scents of damp earth and weary sweat. Yet, among all these orchestrations of warfare, there stands a quieter depiction of courage and necessity. This is not the story of swords clashing and shields locking, but of sustenance food that is as vital as the very air these soldiers breathe. For, in truth, a medieval army's true force rests not solely on valor or numbers, but equally on the sustenance that fuels them, fortifying every weary step forward and every defiant stance against adversity. As the wise have often remarked, the belly is a ruler of the mind, and so does it dictate the vigour of an army. Picture those great campaigns, not just in terms of gleaming steel and careful strategy, but from the simple and profound heart of a soldier who, at day's end, kneels beside a flickering campfire, grasping at the comfort contained in a modest meal. This is a meal whose simplicity belies its importance, transforming basic oats or a humble piece of bread into elixirs of resilience that stave off the ever-looming spectre of famine. Such was the daily ritual for the armies of medieval Europe, embarked on grueling, uncertain campaigns. Even amidst the crises of warfare, amidst the fear of sudden skirmishes breaking through the fragile veil of night, and the whispered rumours of foes lurking just beyond the horizon, could imagine soldiers huddled close within their makeshift camps, exchanging fatigue for camaraderie over simple provisions that sustained them and strengthened their resolve. The food they carried along their arduous paths was a dependable companion, quiet yet powerful balm against the omnipresent weight of uncertainty. Each morsel consumed became both a literal and symbolic reminder of the homes they left behind, the fields and kitchens that stood waiting, filled with the lively chatter of loved ones and the smell of hearth smoke curling through the morning air. Yet, on these expansive journeys, sustenance was not merely about surviving. It held vital importance as a morale booster, reminding soldiers of civilized comforts even in the midst of chaos. The logistics behind feeding an army were daunting in scope and complexity, requiring a detailed choreography as precise as any battle formation. Transporting supplies over the ubiquitous length of distances demanded the foresight of leaders who were as adept at organizing provisions as they were at enacting military strategies. Carefully lined supplies, filled with salted meats, dried beans, and preserved fruits, filled the carts drawn by dutiful beasts of burden. Each rhythmic clop of their hooves echoed with the embodied hope of hungry soldiers amidst fields swept clean by the harrowing tides of war. There was a palpable rhythm to this forward movementa symphonic advance, where boots met earth with the syncopation of marching orders, accompanied by the choir-like rustle of rations swapped between rugged soldiers. However, countless obstacles Arrow's raids could ambush supply lines, leaving warriors with rationed portions, compelled to eke out nourishment from resources that were sparing and precious. Yet, even then, as shadows stretched long across the landscape and weary bodies sought the solace of rest, the prospect of food became a calming balm for their beleaguered spirits, a chance to escape into the familiar rhythm of eating, offering a silence louder and more profound than the drums of war themselves. Season followed season, campaign followed. Campaign each soldier marched not only to the drumbeat of war, but in harmony with the echoes of their hunger meeting, the wishful fulfillment for another day. In the simple acts of breaking bread together, removing a piece of cured meat from its careful wrap, or sipping a precious glug of ale brotherhood was rekindled, and the immovable armours of war lifted just slightly, even if only for a brief moment. This tapestry of shared mealtime, interwoven with both exotic aromas and the comfort of familiar tastes, laid the foundational stone upon which armies grew and great battles were waged. Though invisible, this sustenance was indispensable to the armed forces, infusing them with resilience and courage, paving roads through history with the precious nourishment that sustained empires, dashed them upon the silence of hungry battlefields. So, as you let yourself drift into slumber, consider this: the unseen stories of old, softly inscribed on the tapestry of historical nights, now only mere footsteps in the vast and endless memory of time. Bread and grains, the humble but crucial cornerstones of medieval sustenance, held a place of paramount importance in the life of an army on the march. In those days, bread was more than a mere staple. It was a symbol of continuity, a bridge between battles. Imagine a lone soldier, hand-worn and resolute, undoing the clasp of his leather satchel. Within, nestled among other essentials, is a coarse loaf of bread. Its crust is hard and cracked, evidence of its journey alongside him through the chill of dawns and the heat of noonday suns. He holds it carefully, as if it were the most precious of Treasure Racer lifeline, wrapped in simplicity. This bread, often accompanied by a handful of barley or oats, bestowed much-needed fortitude and strength. Each mouthful was an affirmation against the nagging hunger that shadowed their every step, a testament to enduring resilience in the face of relentless campaigns. Grains, the versatile and enduring soldier's ally, were consumed in several forms, scrambled into thick, hearty gruels, or transformed into dense, nourishing loaves baked by the fireside. Envision the noonday rest, when the clangour of arms fell silent for a brief reprieve. soldiers gathered around in twos or threes, under the scant shade of tree or tent, sharing their rations with quiet camaraderie. The scent of baking or toasted grains mingled with the natural aroma of the earth and pine, creating an invisible balm that soothed away the weariness of strife, albeit momentarily. These grains, hardy and portable, were often the difference between sustaining the formidable spirit of an army and succumbing to the fate of defeats spurred by hunger. Supplies of grains were guarded meticulously, held akin to the most strategic of secrets, for this simple fare was as strategic an advantage as any tactical maneuver. It is curious to reflect on how these grains, initially sown in fields, miles, and epochs away, became intrinsic to the survival of so many on these rolling campaigns. Simultaneously, the process of securing them was no less laborious. The logistical undertakings to ensure a steady supply of grain involved a network quite Herculean in its complexity. From harvesting in homesteads far removed from the battlefield to transporting sacks upon the backs of humans and beasts alike, each grain represented a tale of planning and hardship. The preservation of such foodstuffs was an art learned from the necessity of prolonging freshnessa dance between nature and human ingenuity that involved long, laborious drying methods to ward off spoilage. The dust of flour lingered among them, sifting into fabrics, weaving into daily routines, a reminder of the life-giving quality these elemental foods possessed and their ability to transcend the harshness of the times they endured. On occasion, the soldiers' reverie in their daily bread was rudely interrupted by the harsh reality arrayed on carts meant for their provision, or a miscalculation in rations could quickly turn abundance to austerity. In such trying times, each crumb garnered newfound value, a microcosm of the lucha, the struggle against the encroaching void of hunger. Conversely, in victory and celebration, what diverse textures these humble grains offered. Mixed festively with honey or spices pilfered from luckier conquests, they restored warmth to hearts turned cold by the burden of constant vigilance. Bread and grains, once monotonous survival, would transform into symbols of a triumphant return to normalcy, however fleeting those moments proved to be. This robust partnership between soldier and grain exemplified the practical, nourishing, and symbolic sustenance fueling formidable deeds. Indeed, they represented a quiet revolution and everyday banishment of scarcity's spectre amid campaigns that often spanned unforgiving terrains and endless horizons. As the years fused into stories of wars long past, remnants of these narratives survive within our culinary practices today, a pulse threading through history's intricate weave. As you drift into rest, let your thoughts wander over these fields embroidered by time, where the humble seed meets the sinew of history, where the sturdy heart of the medieval soldier beat in measured rhythm with the growth and harvest of grains, with each kernel encapsulating the gentle promise of persistence and resolve. As the medieval army steadfastly advanced across undulating landscapes and through dense, shadowed forests, the quest for nourishment was perennial and essential to their enduring strength. Meat, with its rich, dense nutrients, played an indispensable role in this dance of survival. Picture, if you will, the break of dawn enveloping a camp, dew shimmering on the grass like scattered gems, as the soft bleating of livestock punctuates the stillness. Herds of sheep or cattle, driven alongside soldiers, were living reserves, ensuring a steady supply of protein. To a famished warrior, the prospect of a warm stew or a roasted haunch of beef was indeed a beacon amid the drudgery of grueling marches and battles. As dusk settled, casting the earth in sable tones, fires crackled to life. Around them huddled hungry troops, eyes reflecting the flames as meat sizzled and seared, releasing an aroma that mingled with the fresh evening breeze. In these moments, camaraderie burgeoned, fed by the promise of shared sustenance and fleeting respite. The provision and preparation of meat involved intricate strategies infused with both ingenuity and urgency. Livestock slaughtered on site was immediately transformed into a hearty meal. However, the necessity to preserve meant ingenuity was never far behind. Traditional practices, learned through generations and honed by experience, came to the fore. Curing, salting, and smoking were essential practices, ensuring that meat could last through days, weeks, and occasionally months in these unforgiving campaigns. Imagine smoked strips of venison, dark and rich like mahogany, carried carefully alongside salted pork, each preserving a meaty essence that would revive weary limbs with the persistence of flavour and much-needed sustenance. Within the heart of these meats lay an unspoken contracto, rekindle strength and spirit, to nourish not just the body, but to kindle the sacred fire of endurance through the trials yet untold. In river-laced valleys or coastal endeavours, fish became an integral ally to the soldiers' survival. With nets cast wide into river currents or open sea bounties, fish would wriggle forth, promising nourishment amid the kingdom of fluid sapphire. This was often dried or salted, entering into the pantheon of travel-ready foods, simple yet powerful. Much like groups of men gathered around shared bread, fish inspired each fillet, filaments of community, weaving stronger bonds. Envision, if you will, the rhythmic chant of soldiers hauling nets as scales glimmered under sunlight, a tangible reflection of hope mingled with the day's catch. Such were the moments that briefly lifted spirits, allowing laughter to punctuate the day before blending again into the steadfast march of war, where tales spun around campfires and silvery fish danced in the vibrant tapestry of their memories. While meat was undeniably a staple, poultry provided a lighter, though by no means less vital, respite to an army's diet. Chickens, and sometimes even geese, were familiar sights, clucking softly, trailing dust as they pecked at seeds or moved amongst the soldiers' feet. Their ability to produce eggs brought an additional layer of sustenance and variety to the otherwise monotonous meal routines. Eggs carried in fragile bundles, exchanged quietly during breakfast meetings, provided rich yet easy nourishment. These were simple things, yet in harsh settings, pillars holding skyward the nourishment of the human spirit. Imagery unfurls before us of soldiers relishing such modest indulgences, cracks and sizzles of eggs echoing into the brisk morning air, yolk golden as dawn itself, a daily blessing against the backdrop of endured strife. Through each conquest, sustenance such as meat, fish, and poultry became an invisible cornerstone of the campaign, a testimony to intertwined lifelines which bound together the fabric of surviving and thriving amidst battling circumstances. There existed an understanding of shared struggles between soldiers and their sources of food, a cycle mirroring the soldiers' fight for glory with their very essence. Transporting and consuming protein-rich foods was as much about lifting spirits as fueling the body's need each effort. Each strategy cultivated to ensure survival also played its part on the vast canvas of wholesale history, a canvas marked simultaneously by contest and communion. From this perspective, every savoury bite taken in the shiver of dawn or by a glowing campfire was both an ode to resilience and a whisper of continuity against the backdrop of the pervasive challenges found in distant lands and bygone eras. As you drift into slumber tonight, remember these stories, imprinted in grains of salt and slivers of meat, tales as enduring and nuanced as time itself. For the medieval soldier on a campaign, herbs and spices were more than mere embellishments. They were vital companions on their arduous journey. Without them, the sheer monotony of army rations could break even the most steadfast spirits. Picture the soldier stirring a humble pot over a fire, the brisk air tinged with anticipation as dried herbs collected from fields or traded over far-reaching distances are crumbled into the bubbling stew. The aromas released fragrant rosemary, pungent garlic, perhaps a touch of spice like peppercorn in to mingle with the earthy smoke and add dimension to their simple fare. Such details transformed mere sustenance into a nourishing experience that resonated deeply, imbuing not just the stew but the scene itself with warmth and comfort. Herbs were immensely practical. They extended the life of meats, masked less pleasant odours, and made their way into ointments and poultices, showcasing their multifaceted roles amidst the battlefield realities. Imagine the rhythmic movement of pestle meeting mortar as a soldier diligently grinds spice each motion, a bridge connecting them to the comforts of home, to kitchens filled with whispers and laughter, smells entwined with shared memories. Exotic spices, such as saffron or cinnamon, were rare treasure a brief, fragrant spark of luxury amid the drudgery. Oftentimes, these precious spices were acquired through trade, or perhaps even more interestingly, as spoils of war from distant lands. Within those fragrant particles lay stories of lands beyond, encapsulated voyages woven with tales of conquest and discovery, redefining each meal not just in flavour but in narrative. While few and far between, when such spices made their presence felt, the soldiers became reacquainted with life's forgotten splendours, elevating meals and spirits alike, suspended in those temperate moments of reprieve, amidst an uncertain and perilous existence. It is not hard to imagine how these simple herbs and spices provided a canvas of imagination and recollection, a bridge between now and then, between present and past. The air, tinged with subtle fragrances, buzzed with stories of heartening myths whispered across long nights, accompanied by the rustling trees and distant howls that framed their nightly bivouac. Spices could propel even the weariest of soldiers forward, offering renewed vigour as sand in an hourglass, each grain a softened reminder of the known sands of time that housed familial hearths and shared hearths alike. Such was their power, for a whiff of cloves or cardamom danced through the cold night's air, threading a vibrant line of warmth and connection. Herbs also possessed medicinal benefits recognized by war-hardened soldiers and the accompanying field healers. They provided natural remedies for the commonplace ailments of military life. Comfrey leaves for aching joints, chamomile for restless sleeps, and mint for ease of digestion were among the assortment of nature's gifts embraced amid the relentless pace of campaigning. Soldiers would seek these soothing balms extracted from fields when restocking became possible, valuing them equally among their possessions shelled as sacredly as weapons finely forged. Their usage bore witness itself to a broader, innate knowledge that was as enduring as their courage. But beyond the pragmatic, the presence of herbs and spices underscored an indomitable spirit, a refusal to surrender joy and warmth beneath the heavy-booted tread of war. Their essence permeated through more than just taste, digging roots into the psyche, intertwining with the collective memory reminiscent of more tranquil times. In evening ceremonies or rare victorious feasts, spices imparted a silent yet stirring testament to an ancient tradition of celebration and commemoration. It was through these vibrant touches that soldiers found reminders of peace and perseverance, seasonings that spiced not only meats but the language and laughter shared amongst them. In contemplating these medieval tales, let the scent of rosemary or the warmth of pepper linger, swirling and weaving their magic as torches crackle against a gentle night. Reflect on how herbs and spices, with their fragrant tales of distant lands, embodied deep-rooted connections to humanity, binding together those who walked the path before us, with those who continue to find solace in culinary whispers of the past. So, may your dreams carry you over these vales and peaks of history, where healing herbs bloom amidst ancient meadows, offering whispers of unity and spice against the vast tapestry of our shared world. Within the bustling heart of a medieval army camp, the symphony of sounds painted a vivid tableau of life in motion. Soldiers shuffled from one corner to another, their footsteps laden with fatigue, crunching over leaves and underbrush. The cacophony of voices carried the weight of their days in tones both hushed and uproarious, designing an intricate pattern amidst the ordered chaos of camp. The clang of pot-meeting ladle broke the rhythmic murmur, while nearby the sizzle of meat over open flames sought eager ears like a melody promising warmth. The air pulsed with urgency, punctuated by the sporadic laugh or muffled exclamation, contrasting sharply with the gentle whisper of wind weaving through erected tents. Amidst these orchestrations, cooking fires flickered in the twilight, their glow a beacon for the weary. Here, in this temporary home, the act of cooking became an art as sacred and unifying as the bonds forged by shared toils and tales. As dusk cast its velvet cloak over the horizon, these fires became sanctuaries around which soldiers gathered, seeking both sustenance and camaraderie. The open flame, ancient and eternal, crackled, projecting tendrils of heat that merged with the cool ribbons of night air. The cook, perhaps a seasoned veteran or a young recruit, stirred pots that held not only sustenance but stories. The stew, a comforting concoction of meat, herbs, and root vegetables, was a symphony of flavours, each bite an echo of home. The pot was a cauldron of memories where soldiers could lose themselves momentarily, closing their eyes to imaginings of kitchens left behind, filled with the laughter of kin and the aroma of familial feasts. The sharing of this stew was an unspoken ritual, an act of community that transcended the requisites of nourishment, offering warmth that seeped beyond the physical into the very fabric of their assembly. Amidst the clangour of these impromptu kitchens, the sense of an orchestra was palpable. Frying pans crackled with fervour, a percussion line underscoring the hums of conversation. Bread, now toasted over the flames, absorbed the essence of their journey at surface, marbled with the scorch marks of hasty preparation, yet its scent offered comfort and familiarity. Nearby, mugs were filled not just with broth or ale, but with the essence of shared history, of bygone times when gatherings infused with warmth felt infinite. Soldiers took turns at their makeshift tables, their hands working deftly despite strains of toil and fatigue, their minds engaged in the silent recital of nourishment. The experience, though soaked in simplicity, became a moment unburdened by the weight of battlier pearl amidst a chain of rugged stones that glittered with community spirit and resilience. Against the backdrop of impending battle, these scenes of culinary commotion provided a rare and cherished chorus, feeding not just bodies, but nurturing the sinews of hope and brotherhood. The raw wood crackled in unison with the explosion of laughter, the swish of wooden spoons adding a rhythmic cadence to their collective effort. Each soldier partook in a minuet of movements, punctuated by commands from the cook, stirring pot or roasting sides with an attentiveness honed not just out of necessity, but care. Beneath these acts lay a deep current of knowledge, each cut, each turn of the knife, reaffirming a muscle memory built on resilience, echoing a truth as old as humanity itself. It was within this communion of movements that the stark walls of camps transformed into something akin to hearth and home, a sacred preserve where one's armour grew lighter, if only for a heartbeat. It didn't matter if the meal wasn't lavish, it was the endeavour that nourished them, a shared vigilance symbiotic with each morsel passed from hand to hungry mouth. Silence fell as they ate, broken only by the soft winds whispering cryptic stories to every attentive ear. Meaningful glances and nods traversed above their steaming bowls, forging connections in starlit shadows deeper than any alliance of iron or oath. While raucous banter tapered to muted conversation, the sense that, in the simplicity of breaking bread, they tethered themselves not just to each other, but to the tapestry of countless travellers who roamed before them, became inescapable. Even in a chaotic ambiance, these soldiers found continuity between the athletic bursts of Wara dynamic melody resonating across the ages. As you drift to sleep, let these sounds drift into your consciousness, the clatter of cooking, the communal hum of unity, transient flames, shadows dancing upon canvas walls. Imagine these vibrant echoes woven into the memory of those long vanished camps, each note infused with the profound joy rooted in shared experiences. Let this vibrant music carry you through realms of dreams, where even the most ephemeral gatherings leave an indelible imprint upon the pursuit of peace and the essence of our shared journey through time. In the medieval tapestry of sustenance, the art of food preservation was a vital key that unlocked the potential of lengthy campaigns and distant journeys. With salting, smoking, and pickling, soldiers embraced methods that transcended mere survival, binding foraged flavours to the vigorous grind of life on the move. Picture the rustic encampments, where soldiers, embodying the wisdom of countless generations, busied themselves in the earthy glow of day's end. Salting was perhaps their most trusted ally, for salt, the crystal essence of preservation, drew life from the brine-filled oceans and enriched every slice of pork or fish that it touched. Casks filled with salt lined the provision carts, their contents indispensable as they leached moisture, warding off decay and extending the life of precious meats over days stretched vast and uncertain. Salt was not merely a gem of practicality, it was a treasure as dear as gold, a staple worth its weight in those difficult days. Imagine the smoky tendrils spiraling from fires, rising upward, enveloping cuts of meat suspended above as they transformed into darkened jewels of preservation. Smoking, a practice passed down through generations, imparted not only longevity but flavour, cradling meats in the aromatic embrace of smouldering wood. Each slice that emerged from this process told a tale of resilience, its surface a tapestry of soot and substance, a reflection of their journey from simple sustenance to enduring nourishment. The scent of smoked venison, rich and heady, wafted through the camp, instilling hunger and anticipation after a hard day's march. It wasn't just meat that found solace in smoke. Fish, sourced from nearby streams, took on a silvery veneer, becoming treasures traded with outstretched hands, their bones a latticework around flesh preserved for future days. Smoking provided soldiers with a small taste of eternity amidst their transient existence. Pickling emerged as another ally. In countless barrels and clay pots, lining the roads taken, vegetables surrendered themselves to vinegar and brine, transforming from humble garden offerings into vibrant sceneries in earthen containers. Root vegetables, hard and unyielding, became jewels steeped in liquid gold, each bright carrot or pungent onion a defiant flare against the encroaching monotony of salted provisions. Pickled vegetables, savoury with sapid promise, broke the texture of daily meals with crispness and tang that woke dull palates from wearied slumber. This method provided variety, an eclectic taste bouquet that defied the oppressive uniformity of salted meats, while noted for its robustness against spoilage. In every perfect crunch or burst of vinegar-laden spark, a soldier could taste the threads of time, interspersed with vinegar's bite, connecting them to the earth's bounty, untouched by iron's cold sweep. Into this mix stepped fermentation, a process older than bread itself. Amid barrels filled with foaming ale, the symphony of life hummed quietly, keeping clamour at bay with the gentle bubbling of yeast at work. Capturing bread's eternal aroma, this practice united soldiers in a moment's reprieve amid ceaseless campaigns. The rich guzzle of golden beer, fermented from barley and hops, provided not only relief from burdensome woes, but aligned with pragmatic ends, offering fluids preservable and safer than oft-tainted waters. Fermentation was a chameleon, morphing ordinary cabbage heads into sauerkraut and ecstasy of tangy delight, shielding warriors from the harsh whispers of scurvy's peril. Tapping joyously into fermentation, the subtle dance of time, melding grain and grape they understood intimately, its comforting arm around their embattled existence, the taste intermingled with memory for generations to span. Even while on the march, these methods required specific care, dedication, intertwined with deft, precisionless acts of drudgery, more hymns imbued with the essence of life. Preservation represented continuity in a world of sudden change-a-thread, stitching then to now, ensuring echoes of abundance clung even in the face of scarcity's call. The rhythmic companionship of preservation lent an immersive grace to their waking days, toiling under clouds parted by beams of promised dawns, beyond the clangour of arms, into the heart of anticipated return. A shared practice, keeping chaos at bay a quiet celebration of control in the grand narrative of war's relentless march orchestrated, not with music notes, but with pulses of time wrapped around nature's bounty. As you ease into slumber, let the fragrances of preservation wind around you, binding together fields of salt, smoke, and brined dreamscapes, whispering of timelessness, nestling close amidst our shared humanity. Feel the whispers of echoing embers, the soft crackle of salted frames, stitching these timeless stories as memories long cherished, bound deeply to the core of persistence and survival, etched into the essence of our shared past and present journeys, woven together through salt's lasting kiss and smoke's ethereal embrace. Vegetables and fruit's simple gifts from the earth played an essential role in nourishing medieval armies, striking a delicate balance against the heavier sustenance of meats and grains. Imagine the patches of green sprinkled among the sprawling canvas of an army camp, modest yet vibrant gardens, cultivated by hands that wielded swords by day and tended to life by night. In this transient sanctuary, nature unfurled its gentle bounty, offering reprieve with root vegetables like carrots, onions, and turnips, each with earthy firmness promising sustenance. The soldiers, weary from travel, would pause to wash the dirt from these vegetables in nearby streams, their reflections catching fleeting glimpses of boyhood days spent in family fields. It was an act both ritualistic and nourishing, a reminder of the stability that awaited beyond the chaos of warfare, a subtle whisper from the soil grounding them in a melody of life amidst desolation. As foraging became an art, soldiers moved through landscape chapters, eyes attuned to the colours and shapes of Mother Nature's varied gifts. It was a skill born of necessity and honed by keen senses, a gamble against the elements that sometimes offered abandon in bounty or denied in desperate drought. Berries picked fresh from bushes, lining the fringes of woodlands, burst with sweetness, tiny jewels whose vibrant juices ran like ink on parchment across hands and lips. Perfectly red cherries, or dark elderberries drawn directly from the tangled green wreaths, reminded soldiers of the artistry held by nature's hand in framing seasons within its leaves. Such finds were fleeting joys, for their ephemeral presence spoke to the cycles of time marked clearly by the ripening sun and fading frost. Through moments spent in plucking fruit and tending patches, soldiers found rhythm instance after instance woven together into the calming hymn of day's cycle. Vegetables such as cabbages, then treasured, were carried tightly bound like troves of emerald currency, thrice over when. Scarcity dappled the landscape grey, they brought vibrancy. To peel back the leaves was to reveal layers of history, gently laid, watching. They remained crisp, under arcane touch. They tasted of preservation, found, journeys returned anew. Amid the swirling dust of the battlefield and the clatter of horse hooves, vegetables and fruits carved a quiet space for Carmo not defined by intricate strategies or valiant charges, but by silent growth and the hand of hope. Together they whispered testimony of resilience that defied chaos, with each meal prepared a song of resilience love, unspoken, but embedded deep within the soul of men moving forward. Preserved through pickling or drying, the bounty of gardens allowed diversity to bloom in the soldier's diet, adding balance to their otherwise monotonous meals. Dried fruits hung or dipped into stews, releasing both warmth and tang as they rehydrated amidst these concoctions, warding off the dreaded spectre of nutritional deficiency, looming like a shadow over weary ranks. Through such innovation, preservation became a symbol not only for sustenance, but for wisdom handed through generations' ancestral gifts, born of seasons' dance that held the echo of sages' whispers, sustained long past the memories of battle's din. In even the smallest offerings from nature's basket, soldiers grasped at a connection thicker than fear, as roots embedded deeply into historical pathways unspooled more stories long, superseded by the clamour of war. Indeed, the role of fruits and vegetables reached beyond physical nourishment, threading emotional fibres that interwove through soldiers' daily life, beyond the rationale of sustenance. The act of ingestion, the experiences tasted anew each mealtime, found in the line between survival and memory's soft embrace. A well-preserved apple gifted from package's hold, or a carefully quartered radish shared between brothers in arms, illuminated sparkles along paths of unity and resistance. Through this shared vitality, soldiers embraced brief moments of wonder amidst their demanding marches, the wholesome and fresh yields, a reminder of homes remembered, foods roasting over familiar hearths, a sensory parade of nostalgia, enriching their motivations to press onward. As you nestle into the quietude of sleep, imagine the whispers of seasons past and future in the blend of earth and sustenance, each vegetable and fruit a harbinger of peace and hope. Feel their presence resonating within the depths of soil pulse beneath footfalls that carry even yet the echo of history's movement across verdant plains. Let these memories of sun-kissed leaves and crisp sweet flavours unfurl within the soft ambience of dreams, enriching your night with the profound reminder that, amidst life's battles, nature holds a continuum that hums with unity and perseverance, inspiring those who listen closely enough to hear its timeless story. In the complex tapestry of a medieval army's sustenance, water and ale were threads woven with both practicality and tradition, sustaining the spirits and bodies of weary soldiers. Visualize, for a moment, an encampment nestled by a murmuring stream, its waters a silvery path winding through a landscape painted in the hues of dawn. The murmuring liquid, cool and refreshing, was a precious bounty, offering a moment's respite to those who fought the dust and sun with every step. Soldiers knelt by its banks, the commute of war paused briefly as helmets set aside became makeshift vessels, lifting the life-giving elixir to lips parched by miles of marching. Water simple, yet profound, carried within each droplet the promise of renewal and the echoes of places walked long before. Yet caution abounded, rivers and streams could deceive, and thus the art of boiling before drinking became an unspoken law, transforming simple hydration into a ritual accentuated by the rising steam that danced like spectres in the morning light. Alongside water's purity walked the heady companionship of ale-favoured for its nutritive promise and safety. Ale's journey to the medieval camp was one of careful craft, imbued with traditions passed from hand to hand, like tales evolving through ages. Imagine vast barrels hoisted into the heart of camp, guarded with as much vigilance as the treasure that fortified their cause. Brewing itself was an art form, dictated by nature's tides, the ability to transform barley, hops, and yeast into an amber wave that could both quench and nourish. Soldiers filled crude mugs from these barrels, finding solace in every sip as the barley's rich undertones mingled with honeyed warmth, that familiar companion offering courage as eagerly as comfort. This malted beverage, often safer to consume than water during those uncertain times, was bred in liquid form, plied with intenser caloric burst that enlivened weary limbs, while kindling the fire of spirits joined across time-worn landscapes. When the sun dipped beyond the horizon, campfires burned anew, and ale became more than sustenance. Sight was a connective thread, weaving an intricate pattern of camaraderie. In the company of fellow soldiers, the simple act of sharing a drink transformed into moments of levity and release. The clink of mugs, held aloft like small trophies won at the day's end, reverberated through the evening air, mingling with laughter and the rising melody of song. Stories unfolded between gulps, bridging the divide between present and past, connecting those gathered with tales of distant lands and familiar hearths. Within each mug lay the ingredients, not merely of grains, but the distilled essence of experience, binding soldiers in a tapestry of shared memory and momentum, emboldening them for trials who lay ahead. Social bonds cemented by warmth and conviviality, where ale became the liquid embrace of unity, rallying beneath the solemnity of the stars. The rhythm of ale's life extended beyond ritual to necessity, a well-considered decision, echoed in every tactical preparation. The process of brewing and storing mandated precise knowledge, and attested to leadership's willingness to ensure its stead across long nights and barren marches. This, too, was strategy cognizance that kept morale afloat even as dangers eroded by horizon and storm. In tandem with bread and broth, ale infused much-needed respite deep within ranks, masked beneath customary routine, yet forever in alignment with the warrior's enduring pursuit of solace. It was currency within raw transactions, sometimes swapped for goods with welcoming villagers, solidifying transient alliances amid shifting borders where trust lay rugged yet self-sown. Ale held within its complexities understandings that bore life forward in mirrored motions, resonant of traditions first forged in prehistoric shadows beneath the heart of ancient settlements. Amid this history, water and ale flowed timelessly, etching their paths into the chronicles held by those soldiers who roamed. They whispered to the profound nature of balance where necessity and comfort journeyed side by side across horizons, not yet earned, but universally shared. Water's innate purity, paired with ale's textured solace, formed a duality holding layers of nuance within their elemental grace, gifting endurance to those who partook. This duality mapped bridges across ages' reflection, cast upon cyclical revolutions of need versus want, paving pathways whose echoes dance beyond walls and time scenes. In their simplicity was depth, the mark of stability, unshaken through torrents of battle, reigning over realms where comprehension extended beyond the tangible to rest gently among consciousness circumspect. As you step toward slumber's embrace, exalt this timeless journey, envision water's healing touch, melding with ale's rich symphony, reflected visions illuminating pools extending beyond measure. These currents share their voices still, crafting chapters of sage elegance among lapping waves upon shore's retreat. Allow them to cradle your dreams and quilt your night with reminiscences of age-old continuity, a gentle reminder that life swirled amidst exigencies of human existence, marked by prismatic truths, infused within the essence of time's immortal flow. Amidst the unfolding saga of medieval campaigns, amidst the grit and clang of armory and the muted whispers of strategy, there was a different story told with subtle sweetness, a story where honey, rare and golden, became an honoured ally. Picture the scene. A soldier, weary from the day's relentless march, unwrapping a small bundle to reveal a modest comb of honey, its rich amber depths promising solace against the backdrop of constant rigour. Within these glossy hexagons lay nature's gift and essence captured from a million flowers, now a reservoir of sweetness that could momentarily lift spirits caught in the grueling routine of military life. Honey was more than a treat. It was a connection to the sun, drenched fields and peaceful beehives, far removed from the cacophonous theatre of war. Even in small quantities, it held the power to sweeten porridges, a precious foil to the savoury and often monotonous meals that made up the daily fare of soldiers. The procurement of honey was often serendipitous, a fortuitous encounter with domesticated bees, or a daring retrieval from wild hives nestled high amidst the boughs of elusive woodlands. Once obtained, honey was treasured, carefully rationed, like the finest of wines or the sharpest of blades. Its enduring nature meant it could withstand the trials of time and travel, a constancy amidst change that soothed homesick hearts. Beyond its sweet embrace, honey carried medicinal properties, making it a useful ally in tending to wounds and providing relief from the ailments that plagued soldiers exposed to the elements. Honey's viscosity touched upon deeper currents, holding together not only spirits but the fabric of camaraderie, as the sharing of such sweetness became an act of brotherhood that reminded them of shared humanity, transcending the harsh delineations of war. In tandem with the richness of honey, other treats appeared along the journey, bestowed generously or crafted from meagre supplies. Nuts gathered from autumn's abundance, roasted to coax out flavours, added another layer to the soldier's modest indulgences. These simple delights became scattered rewards, bright dewdrops of jubilance amidst the monotony of military life, each bite a tactile return to simpler days. When luck favoured them, fruits dried or fresh could bolster their spirits. The bursting tang of a dried berry or a sun-warmed fig transforming ordinary moments into rare pleasures. Their textures were as diverse as their flavours, each carrying whispers of orchards and wild meadows, a tapestry of joy folded into palm-sized morsels, reviving, fading vigour with sweet whimsy. Such treats also carried with them essential nourishment, two vital sugars, and sustenance, vital in maintaining energy and, more importantly, in safeguarding morale. Wrapped in cloth or carried in pouches, they provided a sensory break, a momentary suspension of time when soldiers could pause and partake in what felt, fleetingly, like a return to normalcy. Nostalgia and delight entwined, drawing soldiers from different lands and languages into a shared feast, their unspoken words lifted on the gentle winds of the night. These simple pleasures did more than warm hearts. They bound them together with invisible threads, connecting disparate paths with warmth in an otherwise impersonal journey marked by the cold edge of duty. Such gifts, from nature's larder, were woven into the everyday tapestry of an army's march. When the sun's declining arc stretched shadows across time-worn paths, Thoughts of such carefully preserved treats provided glimmers of anticipation. Storytelling intertwined with its sharing, drawing upon the rich well of folklore and tradition, each tale as sweet and varied as the treats themselves. Whether amidst bustling camps or under the tender silence of star-pricked firmaments, these moments provided a fragile harmony in the symphony of strife, a reminder of life's small yet profound joys. In the chuckle of comrades and the rustle of suppers shared, in the whispered prayers for peace, honey and its brethren touched souls with the gentle hand of mercy that lingers still in the echo of days gone by. As you slip quietly into the gentle embrace of slumber, conjure the golden warmth of honey, glistening with the labour of industrious bees, atop your dreams. Imagine its embracing sweetness, woven into the fabric of your sleep, a cradle spun from the threads of nature's abundance. Let these sweet whispers craft your night's journeyer, gentle sojourn through the past's honeyed moments, carrying echoes of shared sanctuaries and whispered stories that transcend time's weight and linger long after the waking dawn. In the labyrinthine operation of a medieval army, the distribution of rations was as crucial as the clash of swords in determining the fate of campaigns. Picture the scene set at dawn's first light, with columns of men lining up, bleary-eyed yet disciplined, as officers methodically dispensed rations from stacked barrels and sacks. The clinking of metal cups, the dull rustle of burlap bags, and the low hum of anticipation wove through the crisp morning air. Provisions, meticulously counted and evenly apportioned, included essentials like bread, grain, salted meats, and perhaps a ration of ale, ensuring that each soldier received enough sustenance to fuel his toil and valour. To witness this ritual was to see order imposed upon chaosa sacred rhythm of survival in which every morsel weighed equally against the measure of distance marched and battles faced. A trust was forged here, an unspoken pact between the leaders and the led that the army would move with sustained purpose and enduring resolve. The challenges of this sophisticated logistics dance were myriad. Supply lines, the lifeblood of sustained campaigns, required cunning navigation through unpredictable terrain and enemy interference. Imagine a world devoid of modern conveniences, where each piece of food traversed miles cradled by carts, beasts, or soldier seats triumph of efficient supply, an affirmation of persistence. At times, disruption in this supply chain necessitated a shift to foraging or requisitioning from local fields and communities, an act as diplomatically intricate as it was necessary. These rations orchestrated not just nourishment but strategy, ensuring that soldier and structure remained fortified against the unfolding circumstances. Each allocation and consumption, an act of preservation, as critical as any strategic calculation, etched upon the general's maps, held in cloth-draped tents under flickering candlelight. Officers attain their command through wisdom and trust, tasked with the solemn duty of rationing amidst scarcity. This distribution was an art as much as a science, finely tuned to the rhythm of the army's advance, yet flexible enough to accommodate the vagaries of war and whim of nature's elements. Consider the meticulous scribe noting down numbers and names, a quill darting across parchment by fire's glow, ensuring each soldier's due. Their quills penned not simply inventories, but tales of shared hardship, records paragraphing the triumphs of logistics over the negligence fraught by remoteness. Here, every grain of barley and pound of bread became testimony not just to their endurance, but an orchestration of trust, one that mirrored the discreet thread, lacing through ranks, unified by meaningful sustenance and indomitable ambition. Yet not all allocations were devoid of discontent. Resentment could simmer, hot and threatening, beneath disciplined exteriors, fed by whispers of unequal shares, or a desire unquenched by meagre distributions. In those moments, divisive potential seethed briefly within the heart of the army, a reflection of humanity's aching flaw toward envy amidst difficulty. Yet for many, acceptance followed as an inadvertent solace, knowing that tomorrow could bring change, or understanding temperance as a tactic towards their collective quest. Even in discord, invaluable lessons were drawn. From survival sprouted bonds, not unraveling, but strengthening through the bracing experience of perseverance shared against adversity's chill. Each moment of unity restored echoed into the expanse of weary tomorrows, underlining the essential nature of balance and fairness amid the tides of hunger and ambition. As each dawn met with reverence gave way to the determination of the day, Provision's story continued its quiet narrations through actions, and deeds etched among the spinning wheels and cart's creak echoing across rolling hills. Efficiency and cohesion maintained an army's pulse, driven by the unseen wheels of sustenance keeping tempo with fate. In the snug embrace of shared campsites, awash in the golden hour's glow, stories stirred among firesides, not always of triumph or sorrow, but of simple gratitude, of sustenance, reweaving care into the hesitate fabric worn threadbare by resolve. In this complex theatre of logs and loaves, beans turned directory, humankind found its finest nuancier, reflection not of might, but steadfast heart preserved through simple acts of nourishment and community, intertwined along roads less travelled, held in memories, rendered timeless against history's sweeping tides. Within those echoes lies a gentle whisper. As you drift to sleep, imagine the art of provision weaving its fragile, luminous path through your dreams. Let the steady hand of careful distribution guide memory's quiet cadence. Reimagine the embrace of nature's yield carried through the ages a testimony, both to the enduring spirit, knitting spirits past to present, and to a future poised upon shared sustenance and promises held in the folds of historical parchment, bound together by gears of dream and destiny alike. As shadows stretched across the battlefield and the echoes of clashing steel gave way to the stillness of night, the medieval army revelled in rare moments of respite feasting after battle became an epilogue of the day's toil. Around fires crackling to life, soldiers laid down their arms, transformed into celebrants bound by brotherhood and the visceral relief of survival. It was a time when the scent of freshly cooked game permeated the air, a rich aroma that allied with the earth's fragrance, grounding them in a collective sigh of reprieve. Picture long tables hastily constructed from wooden planks, brimming with an array of foods, their bounty a testament to both victory and the fortuitous abundance extracted from the land and its people. Meats roasted to perfection glistened invitingly, while bread, freshly baked and still warm, provided comfort, its yeasty heartiness reassuring as any embrace. Victory transformed these moments from necessity into celebration, an hour marked by joy, and reflection intertwined seamlessly within its golden span. Laughter, at first tentative as spring water, swelled to fill the camp with its resonance, as voices rose in song, harmonizing historical ballads with the present. These feasts, rare gems burnished in the firmament of conflict, offered more than mere sustenance. They connected lives through shared whispers and memories, marking the chords of resilience. Cups overflowed with ale, toasts woven into the starlit canvas overhead, celebrating life amidst war's grim narrative. Despite the harshness of life on the campaign, in these blessed cocoons, worry fell aside, replaced by camaraderie's balm and an abundance shared in gratitude's warm embrace. Supplies long saved mingled with freshly acquired spoils to transform basic provisions into a tapestry of flavors, each dish a symbol of conquest and the promise of more peaceful days. Imagine pies filled with wild game deliciousness, tender root vegetables, crafted with care by hands both deft and reverent, which, only hours before, brandished weapons of warren olive branch among the ash of embattled soil. Here, skills honed, at home found outlet, beyond memories of hearth and home fires. In these moments, camp cooks morphed into alchemists, turning simplicity into abundance, chasing away monotony with the artfulness born of necessity. Beyond the tables laden with bread and meats, rustic desserts occasionally emerged, an ambrosial surprise to palates accustomed to simpler fare. Honey dripped lazily from fruit-laden cakes, while nuts scattered over sugared pastries symbolized the sweet relief found in conquering both hunger and fear. These sweet notes, resonating in the buoyant air, lingered in minds and stories long after the feast ended. Dessert occasionally outshone its modest presence, igniting rich nostalgia, sweet echo, carrying the notes of celebration beyond the camp into starlit dreams. As wine liberally flowed, bonding dispelled the burdens of rank, barriers crumbled, agreements forged anew beneath the shared understanding of life's fragile cycle. Warriors exchanged tales of valor and folly, their laughter a harmonious counterpoint, threading through their vulnerability. Even the land itself seemed to sigh with them, its enduring presence echoing their steadfast desire for peace within its elder embrace. In these feasts, an army became a tapestry, threads of homespun history inadequately captured, within fleeting snapshots rhapsodized across the night. With victory's feast coursing toward its closing, the warmth of companionship echoed long into the night, leaving a trail of contentment in its wake. These moments tethered soldiers to a world beyond battley space, woven with familial comforts, ephemeral yet unforgettable. Such feasts fostered humour amidst hardship, making each bite and sip a shared offering of time momentarily paused. Fed by triumph, neither lament nor anticipation touched the quiet joy that matched campfire's cadence, bridging the gap where strife and solace met. As your eyes grow heavy, transport yourself to those ancient nights, buoyed by the balm of flavour and fellowship. Let the whispers of the feast infuse your dreams. Imagine the warmth and laughter cradling you in tender embrace as you journey through your own timeless landscape, held securely within the knowledge that amidst life's relentless battle, moments of shared joy restore the heart, endowing it with resilience enough to face new dawns draped across an age-spanned journey. In the often relentless and arduous journey of the medieval army, The role of food was not merely to sustain the body, but to nurture the very spirit of those who marched upon uncertain paths. Food in all its humble forms the grain that transformed into bread, the salt-preserved meat, the tang of an apple or plum became emblematic of the army's endurance. As soldiers gathered around the warmth of a communal fire after a daunting day, the shared act of eating provided more than physical replenishment. It wove a deeper tapestry of morale, grounding men in a shared experience that transcended individual toil. Imagine the weary faces, illuminated by firelight, a companion glow casting shadows that danced in tandem with their hopes and fears. The taste of the familiar, even if just a simple broth, offered comforter sensory memory of distant hearths, a momentary escape from the harsh sounds of clashing arms and bellowing commands. It was in these collective gatherings, over the simple act of sharing a meal, that a profound effect on morale emerged, a gentle reminder of their humanity amidst the maelstrom of war. Beyond sustenance, food became a narrative each meal, a story etched into the backdrop of hardship and hope. It was an ever-present thread that stitched together the fabric of time, binding the present with a future anticipated beyond the war-torn horizon. The satisfactory scrape of a spoon against a bowl heralded not only the fullness of belly, but the stitch in time holding frayed spirits together. The rhythm of consumption, sometimes solemn, at other times punctuated by laughter and shared tales, became a rallying cry against the encroaching hardships of prolonged campaigns. Bread, simple yet profound, acted like solid ground, supporting soldiers against the weight of uncertainty, fostering resilience not only in body but in resolve. Every morsel contained the unsung notes of camaraderie, an echo of home brought forward into the presenter taste, lingering on the tongue, long after the last crumb had vanished into memory. Through the shifting sands of fate, it was often the unexpectedly small gesturisa morsel shared, a sip of ale passed between calloused hands that fortified spirits most effectively. Symbols of sharing and hope nourished the troops, acting as practical and emotional sustenance that kept the ranks resilient and steadfast. The very act of breaking bread with comrades deepened bonds, transcending rank and status, unifying them under the shared banner of resolve and survival. Out in the field, the quest for scarce rations could spawn burgeoning friendship and shared resourcefulness. Perhaps it was these virtues, born from necessity, that sculpted a formidable fighting force, capable of confronting adversity with an unyielding gaze. Within the world of medieval armies, varied feasts and meagre rations alike traversed the storylines, etched in memory, filling out the dimensions of battle with the colours and texture of experience as vivid, if not more so, than any tale of valour or victory. Such mundane exchanges, often silhouetted against the grander scale of campaign strategy, provided a soft illumination reflective of enduring strength. In the harshest times, the narrative thread of food brought an intimate retrospection and foresight, carried within soldiers' hearts the holistic understanding that enduring conflict demanded an appreciation for life's quieter honeysuckle sprawls in gardens of silent recollection. Despite the clamorous renown of victorious cries, the subtle cadence of shared sustenance would carry a legacy rooted in empathy amongst battles unremitting. As you slip into the arms of rest, let these tales hum their gentle, nourishing tune across the landscapes of your dreams. Reach back into the fabric of collective human experience and embrace the shared legacy of simple meals savoured and remembered. For in the quietest moments, where crumbs linger and spirits sing, lies an enduring truth waiting to adorn the soul against the stark stretch of ceaseless challenges, the transformative power of shared sustenance, the gentle sway of fellowship threading its golden weave through time's ebbing current, and the unyielding march of shared hope against life's varied canvas. In the dynamic constellations of medieval conquests, the diet of an army was a rich mosaic that mirrored the diverse cultures and lands traversed. Amidst the clang of armour and fervour of ever-shifting borders, each campaign offered opportunities for culinary evolution and exchange, tasting the land and peoples they encountered, absorbing the richness of new flavours and practices. As soldiers made their way through varied landscapes, what they consumed came to reflect these experiences, an unspoken chronicle composed not of words, but of tastes and aromas. On a given day, a soldier might experience the savoury spices of the East, mingling with the sturdy foundations of Western grains, a meal intertwined with stories of lands afar. Every spoonful taken was a testament to the familiar interlaced with the foreign, crafting a dynamic tapestry of sustenance deepened through contact and conquest. This cultural exchange with local populations significantly influenced the army's palate, fostering resilience through adaptability. Newly encountered ingredients saffron bright against the palette of grains, or the rich, glistening colour of olives, became staples within their expanding cuisine, teaching lessons in nutrition, resilience, and survival. Such exchanges also painted portraits of diplomacy within the broader spectre of conflict, a shared meal often opening paths to understanding. Sometimes flavours encapsulated in roasted game brought harmonious unity amidst disparate backgrounds. At other times, unfamiliar but eagerly embraced offerings of exotic fruits and cheeses served as bridges between civilizations. These culinary adaptations underscored the profound ability of food to serve as both nourishment and fundamental connector among people, merging diverse heritages within the crucible of shared endeavour, reminder of the intertwined nature of sustenance and culture. Each meal marked a passage into cultural gestalt, where the flavours were not only consumed, but layered with the stories and identities of those who produced them, adding depth and richness to the nutrition received. Through epic tales of resistance and alliance, soldiers carried forward these newfound flavours, contributing to the army's evolving identity, a gastronomic anthology penned in the tongues of myriad cultures. Spices carried from markets across sun-drenched Mediterranean harbours of North Africa, or delicacies picked from lush, green valleys of Middle Europe, these culinary treasures, nestled within their belongings, treasured alongside swords and shields. Upon the reopening of packed satchels, the scent and taste of those spices wove fragrant narratives of travels and battles won, binding experiences captured from lands far and near. These culinary adaptations not only enhanced sustenance, but seeded tales of courage and determination that echoed in shared campfires and whispered traditions. Thus were born new traditions passed down through generations, united by flavours that broke barriers and built culinary bridges, etching immutable bonds upon the hearts of those who partook, moments resonating long beyond the eras in which they played out. The army's diet came to reflect the necessary harmony with nature, a reminder of the resourcefulness and ingenuity bolstered by interaction with local communities. Local specialties, intermixed with familiar fare, created a patchwork of cuisine that aligned necessity with richness, the earthy melody of agricultural bounty, meeting the rhythmic cadence of iron tread and resolve. Even in the chaos of war, the gentle whispers of culinary knowledge, exchanged across a battlefield, softened the edges of strife, entwining worldly wisdom into the soldier's everyday practices. Thus, the meals tasted from fields tilled by far-reaching hands and vineyards tended by distant kindness became shared gifts, a testament to coexistence, found even amid discord, reinforcing the timeless connection between sustenance and the human experience. Despite the battles fought or won, amidst the exchanges of culinary insights lay an unending thread, subtle yet enduring echo of unity and shared legacy across the annals of history's grand narrative. As you gently drift into dreams laced with flavors of ancient pastures and sunlit groves, let this tapestry of cultures entwine your night, painting dreams with the palette of history. Imagine the symphony of spices warming the air, the scent of shared feasts bridging time. Within that delicate blend of sustenance and culture lies the truth of our interconnected stories, reminding you that through the nourishment shared among the ancient, our own lives are layered with complexitia. Reminder that the heart of our existence is continually enriched by the dance of diverse cultures, finding harmony upon the table of humanity's unwritten past and future. The culinary tapestry of the medieval army unfurls not just as a story of survival, but as an enduring legacy that echoes through time, revealing truths about the connectivity of people and the lasting influence of shared sustenance. Each meal consumed amidst the dust and clamour of battle was an unspoken tribute to the endurance of the human spirit, reflection of generations past and future, bound by the simple yet profound act of breaking bread. Imagine soldiers, drawn from various walks of life, gathering under the vast canopy of sky, sharing in the bounty procured through both toil and fortune. In those moments, the pressures of the battlefield recede, leaving in their wake a quiet appreciation for resilience, nourished by morsels of bread and meat, crafted into feasts by necessity and camaraderie. In this context, food becomes more than mere sustenance. It is a thread connecting the past to the present and onward to the future. It speaks to the resilience and resourcefulness inherent in humanity and ability to draw from the land and adapt out of necessity, finding harmony in diversity. The preservation methods like salting and smoking that ensured survival during long campaigns are vestiges of an enduring knowledge passed down through millennia, symbols of human ingenuity adapting to nature's rhythms. Just as these techniques sustained armies, they continue to inspire today's practices, reminding us of the deep connection between survival, cultural exchange, and the culinary arts. Such practices project forward-reaching echoes that resonate even in contemporary kitchen's testament to the lasting influence of medieval culinary wisdom on modern palates. Reflect, too, on the role of the communal meal in solidifying bonds that stretched across ranks and ethos. As soldiers shared food, they forged networks of trust and kinship that transcended the bloodied pursuit of war. The dining space transformed into a crucible where friendships and alliances were fortified, providing emotional ballast for weary souls swayed by the vagaries of conflict. These interactions were as nourishing to the heart and spirit as the meals themselves, underscoring the timeless truth that humanity thrives not in isolation, but through connection. It is here that the real essence of sustenance is laid bare as vital to the soul as it is to the stomacher legacy etched into the earth, echoing within us all. Even beyond the physical dining arena, the influence persists. As our current world becomes more globalized, the medieval army's experience with diverse cuisines serves as an early archetype of culinary fusion, demonstrating the vitality and necessity of cultural exchange. Such experiences laid foundational stones for the multicultural appetites seen today, where flavors from across the globe spill onto our dinner tables, enhancing our understanding and appreciation of the world's complexity. Indeed, through each adoption and adaptation of foreign ingredients and methods, we continue to taste the distant echoes of ancient journeys and mingled destiny's culinary legacies, literally feeding into the collective human narrative. As we allow ourselves to sink into the gentle embrace of night, consider how history, sustenance, and connection are eternally interwoven. Let the whispers of past meals shared on hallowed ground enrich your sense of unity and continuity. Such reflections remind us all of the overarching journey propelled not merely by triumph or travail, but by the serenity discoverable in moments shared, in sustenance savoured, in bonds nurtured. May your dreams find nourishment in the timeless stories steeped in history's forever revolving, ever evolving and enduring reminder that our threads through life are as nourished by what we share as by what we consume. Embrace that legacy tonight, as sleep cradles you gently, carrying forth tales of feasts past into tomorrow's unfolding story. The final scene of this immersive journey through history's kitchens brings us to a quiet moment of reflection amid the shadows of ancient armies and their rustic feasts. These narratives of sustenance, entwined with the organic fabric of medieval life, stretch across epochs and echo gently into our present day. In a time when war was both a constant threat and an artisan of resilience, the artful preparation and sharing of food established a foundation unbroken by the hooves of time's relentless march. Its legacy lies not in the grandeur of triumphs recorded by heralds, but in the humble communion found in shared loaves, exchanged glances, and the ephemeral touch of warmth from kinship fires. These were the true victories, the quiet ones, resonating silently within the core of what it means to be human. As we wander through these bygone eras, the food of a medieval army survives beyond the ingredients, enduring as a testament to enduring kinship and the perpetual human quest for connection and meaning in places forged by both sword and sustenance. Each meal was a chapter in an unending saga, revealing steadfast commitment to survival and ingenuity as soldiers traversed vast and unforgiving landscapes. No mere sum of its bread and meat, these meals echoed with the whispers of home-undaunted echoes that carried hearts forward into the embracing arms of battles waged not only with steel, but with resilience and purpose. Soldiers returned nightly, reunited in nourishment's steadfast embrace, where days etched in harsh realities softened in the glow of communal spirit. This intricate dance of shared sustenance powerfully acknowledges humanity's resilience, leaving an indelible imprint and understanding that amidst turmoil, solace rests within simple bonds, braided into shared experiences and communal dreams drawn into the warmth of evening's gathering. Through the prisms of spices, meats, and crave-worthy concoctions, these culinary tales ultimately highlight enduring vibrance, binding yesterday's stories with the heartbeat of tomorrow's unfolding rhythm. The legacy of army diets in medieval times extends beyond mere caloric content, enveloping grandeur of moment-stitched connections across the vibrant patchwork tapestry of human history. Sparking colours through our intricate lives, echoes of ancient meals whisper to remain inviting us into an eternal embrace, savouring fleeting textures of gratitude found distinctly against life's often discordant journey. We become, as night descends, the spectral silhouettes cradled wondrously within the same comforting serenades waved gently by the embrace of marrow from marrow, beckoned by the dish's resolute harmony, in whispers of times choreographed elegantly alongside nourishing hands. Step softly now into the night's velvet cradle, allowing these stories and their flavours sculpted through ages guide your resting thoughts. Imagine your senses attending a feast steeped in ancestral spirit, legacy woven from nostalgia and new beginnings. As you drift, know that each historical story of bread, broken on rugged trails, conclusions sung amid campfire string, casts harmony across human connection, legacy woven not in triumphal glories, but upon the whispers shared over meals, made simple by souls, resilient in life's embrace. Let these narratives of what sustains us, this venerable dance around tables laid lovingly with history, grace your dreams, find peace in appreciating the enduring legacy of feeding body and spirit alike. As morning prepares its gentle ascent, awake fully replenished by the rich tapestry of this Epicurean journey, nestled warmly within time's encompassing, embracier, radiant testament to the human heart's abiding strength, sustained through loss and laughter amid paths beckoning of today and into tomorrow. As the seasons turned with the measured grace of time's eternal wheel, medieval armies encountered the full spectrum of natural elements: frosted breath on winter mornings, torrid sun over unshaded plains, torrential rains pounding the fabric of tents with a rhythmic insistence. And still, through it all, they marched, guided not just by banners and orders, but by the quiet comfort found in the enduring rituals of food. Meals became more than a means of sustenance. They were anchors against the shifting chaos, a reminder of order amid the disarray of war. In summer's oppressive heat, soldiers scavenged for edible greens among the fields, plucking bitter dandelions and tender sorrel to add to their soups or chew as they walked. Even the sting of nettles, boiled gently into broth, brought needed nutrients and grounding relief. Winter, cruel and relentless, tested every layer of preservation and every morsel hoarded with care. The wind cut like glass, and the earth grew still and reluctant to yield. Fires became sacred, nurtured with trembling fingers as precious as gold, their warmth stretching no further than a few feet, but offering salvation against the freezing dark. Meals in this time were fewer, simpler thicker stews with bone and root, smoked meat shaved thin to last longer, broth shared in silence among hunched shoulders and reddened cheeks. The taste of salt on one's tongue lingered longer in the cold, a sharp contrast to the sweetness of honeyed fruits remembered from warmer days. Bread was harder, dried near to stone to withstand the elements, requiring dunking into soup or ale just to be consumed. But each bite reminded the men that they still lived, still endured. The seasons also shaped the very mood of the camps. Spring brought promise, with fresh forage and the chance to hunt wild game again, hares darting through dewy meadows, birds flitting nervously in new-leaved trees. The scent of wild garlic and young onions mingled with wood smoke, turning the meal into a celebration of survival. In autumn, harvest time, soldiers might briefly taste abundance, feasting on apples straight from orchards, or pears with soft flesh that stained their hands. Vegetables, still fresh from the ground, might find their way into stews before preservation had to resume in earnest. And always there was the knowledge that each season offered different blessings and different trials. The relationship between man and landscape was intimate and constant. To eat was not merely to consummate, was to converse with nature, to ask of it what it would give, and to accept its silence when it yielded nothing. Soldiers learned to observe not only the movements of their enemies, but the migrations of birds, the condition of soil underfoot, the fruiting of trees that hinted at what might be scavenged tomorrow. Some became amateur herbalists, able to identify which leaves soothed the gut, which bark made a healing tea. Others became quiet hunters, finding patterns in animal paths and setting traps with a surgeon's precision. In these moments, the line between soldier and peasant blood both were merely humans, surviving. Though hardship was constant, there was dignity in the preparation of meals. Even in makeshift camps, soldiers took time to craft what they could. A pot hung over flame was stirred with care. A loaf of bread was broken and passed hand to hand with reverence. A handful of nuts or dried fruit might be tucked into a pouch and saved for a quieter moment. Cooking was not a chore but a ritual, one that carried the wisdom of ancestors and the soothing familiarity of repetition. These acts, performed again and again, stitched a thread of peace through days fraught with unrest. The tools of battle might be set aside for an hour, and in their place came ladles and blades dulled not by war, but by use in kitchens both grand and humble. And sometimes, when the evening air was still and the fire burned low, someone might begin a song soft at first, barely audible over the crackle of kindling, but it would catch like flame, passed between companions like the ladle from stew to bowl. Songs of home, of lovers left behind, of seasons gone, of gods watching from distant heavens. The meals became their chorus, their hymns written in salt and smoke, in boiling broth and shared silence. In these nights, brief though they were, food was transformed from necessity to communion, from the sustenance of the flesh to the nourishment of the soul. So the march continued, each step met with rumbling stomachs and determined hearts. The army did not simply move by will, or order it moved by hunger, by habit, by hope wrapped in oiled cloth and crusted bread. With every shared portion, every fire lit under moonlight, the legacy of those who endured was written not only in steel and parchment, but in crumbs, in bones, in bowls licked clean under stars. They carried no recipe books, no lavish feasts, but their cuisine, humble as it was, became the songline that carried them across mountains, across deserts, across memory. But not every march ended with the comfort of stew or bread warmed over a fire. There were days when the food ran low, when the wagons fell behind, or were lost to ambush or weather. On such days, hunger gnawed not only at the belly, but at the mind, sharpening tempers and dulling judgment. The boots grew heavier, the pace slowed, and every man, from the lowest squire to the most seasoned knight, became painfully aware of the growing void inside them. In these times, survival demanded improvisation, a forced return to the most primitive of instincts. Men foraged, not with calm curiosity, but with urgent sippicking through underbrush, turning over stones, sniffing at mushrooms and roots with equal parts hope and dread. It was a quiet desperation, shared in glances, and the silent accounting of each remaining scrap of hardtack or jerky. In some cases, they traded. A silver coin, a button, a favour owed, these were bartered for a heel of bread or a small pouch of oats. In rare moments, kindness overruled calculation. A soldier, seeing the hollowness in another's face, passed over his last piece of cheese without a word. And in those moments, fleeting though they were, humanity shone like the sun slipping through storm clouds. Other times, desperation eclipsed decency. Fights broke out over rations. A stolen apple became the spark for a brawl. Trust fractured, and the commander's voice grew sharp with the burden of keeping order amidst scarcity. And yet, even in these harshest moments, the will to find nourishment persisted. Soldiers turned to the land again, fishing from icy rivers, trapping birds with twine or luck. Wild onions, garlic, and nettles found their way into boiling pots when nothing else could be spared. A single rabbit, caught after hours of stillness, became a feast for 6. Bones were not discarded, but boiled again and again, until every trace of fat was drawn out, every whisper of nutrition captured in thin broth. And when no meat could be had, they turned to flour and water, mixing it into paste and frying it on hot stones. It filled the stomach, if not the soul. Then came the days of return, when supplies caught up with the army, when wagons reappeared on the horizon like ghost ships made of wood and iron, bearing barrels and sacks that rattled with the promise of sustenance. The joy that spread was wordless but radiant. Soldiers clapped each other's backs. Fires sprang to life with new urgency. Bread was unwrapped and passed around. The sound of boiling stew once again rose over the murmurs of camp, and the taste of salted pork, though modest, was a banquet after the long drought of want. In those moments, food was not merely food. It was triumph. It was restoration. It was life rekindled. And in those restored camps, soldiers often looked to the cooks with new reverence. These were not mere servants, but vital guardians of morale and health. The camp cook, with a battered ladle and a brow perpetually lined with smoke and sweat, was equal parts artist and alchemist. He took the most humble ingredients and transformed them into something sustaining, sometimes even comforting. He knew how to stretch a pot of barley for an extra day, how to mask spoiled meat with vinegar and spice, how to coax flavour from wilted greens. Around his fire, soldiers came not only to eat, but to talk, to laugh, to remember. These fires became places of temporary peace. No orders were shouted there. No weapons drawn. Only the clatter of spoons and the low murmur of stories, some true, some invented, but all necessary. For a few minutes each day, the war receded, and the world shrank to the circle of warmth cast by the firelight. In these moments, the army rediscovered itself not as a machine of conquest, but as a collection of individuals, bound by hunger, by habit, by hope. When feasts did come, they were rare and glorious. Victories bought with blood were paid back, in part, with roasted game and sweetmeats, with loaves soft and steaming, with wine and ale poured freely under torchlit canopies. These were not everyday meals, but sacred intermissions, pauses in the grind of hardship that allowed men to taste celebration. Spices once hoarded were brought out. Honey was drizzled on roasted fruit. Minstrels sang and men danced, though some could barely lift their legs from exhaustion. And all knew, as they ate, that such feasts would not last. The next march was never far away. But memory is a strange companion. It softens some things and sharpens others. And for many soldiers, the memories that endured were not the worst hungers or the grandest banquets, but the quiet meals, the shared crust of bread under the stars, the warm soup passed around without a word, the unexpected sweetness of dried plum found at the bottom of a pouch. These memories clung tighter than the weight of armor or the chill of dawn. They stitched themselves into the soul, proof that even in hardship there had been moments of grace. And through it all, food remained not just a necessity, but a symbol of perseverance, of civilization carried forward in the heart of chaos, of the will to live, not just survive. Each pot stirred was a declaration: we are still here. We are still human. In a world stripped bare by war, food became the way soldiers remembered their names, their homes, their dreams. It tethered them to something greater than the march, greater than the mission. It reminded them of what they fought for. So they marched and they cooked. They foraged and they shared. They endured bite by bite. And though history remembers the generals, the tactics, the battles, somewhere within that grand ledger lies a quieter truth. The war was survived not only by the sword, but by the spoon. Not only by courage, but by bread. Not only by glory, but by the daily miracle of sustenance passed from hand to hand in the fading light.